Today we thought we could partner with Girl Geek to give you a real unique perspective on how to adapt when you're in a fast-growing company.
I used to attend these Geek Girl dinners like 6 years ago. I was in the audience like you guys, learning the stories and experiences of other Geek Girls, so I'm very excited to be here today.
As our businesses grew, we had to scale very quickly and we had increasing demands.
What about looking forward?
I'm very passionate about hiring and recruiting. We need to hire people who are open to learning, who are open to self-improving.
So I wanted to be in a place where I felt like I could add value, where I could learn something new every single day.
We are always looking to make changes, even if they're like small changes to the TrueString function, so we can get like little wins here and there.
The most important thing I learned over the last 5 years is the value of being fast and flexible.
Taking a moment, even if things are going at 500 miles per hour, just stop.
If there is an issue, we're going to catch it faster, and that's really, really important.
The resume is important, but for me, it's really the human and the psychological aspect of who you are.
Part of our culture is just like people geeking out together about like data and product and like how to do it best.
Yeah, I'm Katie, I'm the CMO. I think it's okay. I'm the CMO here at AppLovin, and we just wanted to say thanks to Girl Geek X. This is awesome. We haven't really done anything like this before, so this is our first time, and they'll probably ask you for feedback at some point, so feel free to give it to us. This is a new thing for us. I would also like to thank Brianna. Brianna, where are you? Brianna is the one, and Marissa, who is probably not here right now. She's out front. They really put all of this together. They got all the food, which was outstanding, and the color-coded name tags. And they were down here putting the seats here today all on their own. So I just wanted to give a big shout-out for all your hard work. Thank you so much. So if you don't know a lot about AppLovin, or even if you do, real quickly, we're a comprehensive platform that connects app developers of all sizes to about 2 billion global users each month. We have a growth, monetization, and publishing services that really focus on giving game developers the expertise and insights they need to grow their business. We're only about 6 years old, and I think we have about 160 employees, 165, and up until recently we were self-funded. So we're actually pretty small compared to a lot of the companies around here, but we've really experienced hypergrowth in the past few months, even just this year you could say. We have about 7 offices worldwide, and our valuation is a little north of $2 billion. So we have a very few amount of people doing a lot of work and producing a lot of great things well beyond just the revenue that we're bringing in. So today we thought we could partner with Girl Geek to give you a real unique perspective on how to adapt when you're in a fast-growing company, because we have a very strong perspective on that. And we grow our own roles kind of within that company. And so today I have Helen and Alice, and they're going to kind of start things off with me. We're going to get the business perspective on that, and then next we're going to move over to engineering and ops and really get a more technical perspective on how we scale and how we're adaptable. And so, I'm sorry, there is an agenda as well. Panel 1, panel 2, and then we can eat and drink some more. All right, so let's start things off with you guys just telling me a little bit about what you do here at AppLovin and about yourself.
Great. Hi, everyone. This is a really great turnout. I'm super excited to be here. A little bit about myself. My name is Alice. I'm the Director of Marketing here at AppLovin. I've been here for 4 years. My journey here started out on growth, and as the business has scaled, I've taken on creative services, and most recently, I've built out that team to be over 30 people, and it's currently one of the largest teams in the business.
I'm Helen. I'm the Director of Growth Partnerships at AppLovin. I joined in 2013, and since then have grown and trained our global teams who are responsible for helping our customers achieve their performance goals. And a little fun fact about me, I used to attend these Geek Girl dinners like 6 years ago. So in 2012, I was in the audience like you guys, learning the stories and experiences of other Geek Girls. So I'm very excited to be here today.
I didn't know that. You saved that for us. So you guys both come from a different background. It's not like you were in this industry when you first came to AppLovin. So what drew you to AppLovin? And what do you enjoy most about being here?
Okay, cool. So I joined because I wanted to be around the smart and hardworking people in this company. I wanted to learn how to build a business. And before I joined, I was at a large bank. I did research on internet trends, and I learned that mobile advertising was going to be growing at a tremendous rate, and we were just at the very beginning of this long-term growth trajectory. And so in 2013, AppLovin had already been operating for about a year and a half. They had invested heavily into building the platform and product and was starting to make their first business hires. I remember interviewing with a couple people at the company and just being so inspired and in awe of how smart and passionate they were. I was like, I just want to be around these people all the time and work with them and learn from them. And because I knew where mobile advertising was headed, I really believed in our CEO Adam's business vision of us being this growth engine for app developers. And so I knew there was going to be endless opportunities to learn and to grow with the business. And so I joined, and I haven't looked back since.
Alice?
My journey is similar, but a little bit different in the sense that I had also come from a very structured background. I've grown up in management consulting, banking, sales and trading. That's what I thought I wanted to do with my life. And until I reached a point where I realized I needed something more. So I wanted to work in a place where I could make an impact, where I could bring ideas and promote change. I needed that in my career. I did not know very much about mobile advertising, to be totally honest. And I took a chance and I took a risk to interview at AppLovin. And I was nervous because it was a deviation from a very structured route. And actually taking that risk was probably one of the best decisions I've made. And two things drew me to AppLovin. One, and I think this echoes what Helen said, is the people. And two is the learning opportunity. So for me, when I was interviewing, I realized that everyone was so smart and so much smarter than I am, but they were down to earth enough to want to teach me. So I thought that was really cool. Two was that leadership really cared about my growth, and they were invested in helping me get to where I needed to be. That was also something that, for me, made a big impact on my career here. And three was the mentality about work. So people here are really passionate about making things better and not doing things just for the sake of doing them. So if something is menial or something is low value, let's find a way to automate that. And that really spoke to me because it demonstrated the company's value in innovation and change. So all of those things really inspired me. I wanted to be around those people, and I wanted to be a part of that race.
And the fourth reason is Helen, right? Didn't you guys go to school together?
Yes. Fun fact about me is Helen and I went to college together, and she was my big sister there, and that's how I learned about AppLovin.
I knew she was going to kill it when she joined.
Oh, right. And is there anything surprising you guys have learned since being here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's just learning that I would be constantly stretched and challenged all the time. Before I joined, again, I was at a large bank where the work environment and culture was very different. Even though the financial markets were changing every single day, I felt like the mindset and the processes were very routine and very stagnant. So I wanted to be in a place where I felt like I could add value, where I could learn something new every single day. And so the the most important thing I learned over the last 5 years is the value of being fast and flexible, which is staying in tune with changing market opportunities, being ready to action, adapt, and readapt. And I think this speed and mindset with which we operate is really the key to our tremendous business growth that we've had since 2012. Also, I think everyone in this company has the ability to wear a lot of hats to help out in ways that are beyond what's just being asked of them. So I think really people here are very keen to help the business, but they're also very invested in helping each other. So I think hiring people who can add to this culture of continuing pushing each other, challenging each other to ask intelligent questions, to take risks, and to do better than their last is really important for continuing to grow our business.
So you guys have grown from being individual contributors to being managers now. You both manage teams. Alice, as you mentioned, Alice is actually on my team, and then you have one of the biggest teams at the company right now, and you have a big team too. What do you guys typically look for when you're hiring? Because lately it feels like we're always hiring. So what do you look for? How do you kind of figure that out in an interview? What are some tips you can give to these guys about that?
Definitely. So I'm very passionate about hiring and recruiting. The resume is important, but for me, it's really the human and the psychological aspect of who you are. So when I interview candidates, there are two main things that I care about. The first one is ability to learn. So you will hear throughout the theme of our panel that the only constant is change. And that's, I think, a core thing that has driven our company to be so successful today, is constantly evolving. To be able to move that fast, we need to hire people who are open to learning, who are open to self-improving, and who are receptive to knowledge and feedback. So, for example, when our team ramped up from 15 to over 30, that doesn't happen overnight. That's a collaborative effort of everybody on the team, from the individual contributors to the leads. And that really requires that openness and heart to be flexible. The second thing I care about is grit and passion. So I think that speaks to the first one, is be receptive, be open to learning, and two is apply that in your day-to-day and be able to put in the amount of work that it takes, and you need to have the passion to be able to want to do that. Those are two things for me.
Yeah. You want to add anything, Helen?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I totally agree with everything Alice said. I think we spend a lot of time thinking about hiring and who we hire and why we hire. I also want to add that I look for candidates who have really deep comfort with data, simply because we have a lot of it, which is readily available and waiting for someone to extract meaning out of it. So our growth analysts do the really important work of analyzing the data, building models that can inform us of how we can drive better performance for our customers. The second thing I look for is some love of solving puzzles of any kind. So even if a candidate doesn't have quantitative or technical background, I look for any indication that they might be, for example, like a chess master or an avid player of strategy-based board games. Anything that suggests that they're a strategic problem solver who can look multiple steps ahead and formulate a plan. And these kinds of things demonstrate to me that someone possesses deep problem-solving skills, which we need in our business to continue to grow the way we have.
And so what about, okay, someone's gotten hired, they're on your team, right? So let's fast forward a little bit. How do you guys as managers coach and manage, keep your staff motivated? Again, we're small, we're scrappy. how are you able to kind of get in there and work with them in a way that's not micromanaging, but also helping them move forward? Especially when we change goals all the time, right? Or we're flexible, or we fail fast, right?
Yeah. I'll go ahead. I think that's a really good point, and I think in addressing staff motivation, I think it's important to also discuss the culture and the space in which we work. So we have a very open office concept where analysts, managers, and VPs all sit next to each other, and they're sitting next to other functional teams. We encourage a lot of questions to be asked openly, a lot of ideas to be raised, and so problem-solving, learning, and teaching happens organically at our desks and out in the open, and it happens in every sort of like direction you can imagine between levels of the organization and across different functions. So I think those are really great opportunities for people to learn and to grow all the time. And then on my team, we do regular check-ins with between managers and the employees, where I like to take our employees out to coffee, and it usually starts with asking questions like, how are you doing? What's going well for you? What do you need help with? And these are important opportunities for an employee to share their ideas and questions that they have or goals, and get support from their manager on how to get there. And I really like that these are outside of the office, like over coffee, because it's a more casual environment where people can connect on a more personal level and dive deeper into the discussion.
This is a really good question. I think there are a lot of things a manager can do in the day-to-day to help foster this, but for me, the fundamental value, and I don't take any credit for this because someone else taught me this, is empathy. So for me, it's about recognizing that every single member of your team is human. So for me, it's spend time with them. So I do walk around on my team and other teams, probably because I just like talking to people a lot. But I like getting to know them in a work environment, but also outside of work. As a manager, that also helps me connect the dots when I see opportunities for people who can help each other out, or would just be a good fit to talk to one another, whether it's a mentorship relationship or not. So that's one thing. Another thing is with my direct reports, don't be afraid to talk about things that are not work-related. I think building that relationship is really important to having tougher conversations, too. So that openness is super key. And it helps. The last thing I would say is have your EQ feelers out. So how is the team feeling, right? I have a team of 30 people. It can be hard sometimes to know how everybody is feeling. But there are ways to kind of learn that, whether it's through your own direct managers or just through day-to-day talking to people, and being sensitive to that. Like if the team's feeling stressed out, can we take a break? Can we go for a coffee? Can we catch up? Can we lighten the mood a bit? I'll crack a joke, I'll play some songs or something like that. Or if you have a life event going on the team, like celebrate that, right? Their win is the team's win. But most importantly, it's winning everyone over as people.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I heard both of you guys say is it's about the individual. It's about connecting in different environments. I will say, having worked at other companies before, AppLovin is very unique in that we actually have a very low amount of meetings here. As a CMO, I can easily go sometimes with only 1 or 2 meetings in a day. I'm not in back-to-back meetings all day, so that actually gives us the time to connect with individuals outside of your team and on your team. We really take the open office concept, like why have it if you're not going to actually leverage it, right? So we'll just do impromptu meetings or conversations that'll just start up right at the desks versus going into conference rooms and having meetings. And for me, having been at so many other, not a ton, I guess, but a few other companies, the concept of not being in back-to-back meetings and actually getting to connect with your team and other teams in a real environment, and also leveraging things like Slack and the different tools that we have is what makes a big difference too, which is what you said, yeah. And what about mentors? How do you guys leverage mentors on the team? Do you leverage mentors on the team? Do you think it's valuable?
Absolutely, it's valuable. So on my team, it depends. I focus on what the purpose of the mentorship is. So an example could be if I have a new manager, I want them to have a resource where they can talk to that person more candidly than they probably could with me to help them grow. In that case, what we've done on my team is we've sourced externally through networks of our leadership team to provide that person with a mentor. And we've seen that has been really effective. An alternative example could be just pairing a junior person and a senior person together on the team. That use case is more internally driven. So, making sure this person has a support on the team that they can learn from them about their day-to-day jobs as well. So absolutely mentorships are important. I have mentors as well. They're your greatest advocate. They can help honestly point out areas where you can improve on more candidly. And it's just nice to have someone to talk to sometimes.
Yeah, definitely everything Alice said I agree with too. In thinking about how I think about mentorship, I think it's also worth discussing like how I define it. I think mentorship is also a two-way partnership where both parties can get a lot out of that interaction. Not only is it a way for the mentee to share their ideas and goals and get support and guidance from an experienced person, but it's also a great opportunity for the mentor to teach, to pass on knowledge, and to get perspective on what's happening at other levels of the organization. So I think this is actually one of the very critical interactions between an employee and their own manager, so we invest a lot into this, definitely. And then as far as more long-term mentorship that we have in the team, it's most commonly going to be when a new hire joins. We try to pair them with a more experienced analyst who can teach them about the role, about the business, and that's a really great opportunity for the experienced analyst to practice their leadership skills and to help develop the team.
So this is probably a harder question, but we have small teams here. We're a small company. And so outside of this, like, okay, this is a new hire that's coming in and they're getting paired with someone senior, how do you help people find mentors? What are some practical ways to do? Because I feel like, quite honestly, I go to these events and everyone's like, let's find a mentor. It's really important. And that all is organic. Thank you. And I don't think that, I don't think that, I mean, I think that's great, and I guess it should be organic, but there's got to be ways to kind of facilitate that process. So have you employed that at all, or what have you guys done?
So I've tried, that's a really good question, and it can be tricky. I've employed both assigning on my team, so I look at kind of like what the needs are, and I have paired people together, but I also allow them the flexibility to kind of figure out if it works for them. I tend to think if it's more natural, it'll work a little bit better, but at least I'm providing an opportunity to that person to try it. The other thing I've tried is just observing. So there are natural kind of relationships that form through time, just kind of, that's just how humans are, and if I see that happening, then I can have that conversation with both parties and see if that would make sense as a match. So I've tried both ways. I will say the one where I match it has probably had less chances of working than the organic one, but because there's not always an organic fit, I still have to go try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Helen?
Yeah, I think it's definitely tricky to try to pair employees with new mentors. So I think the check-ins with people to understand where do they need help, how things are going for them is really helpful for understanding what they need. On the business growth side, the nature of our work is very collaborative too. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to build partnerships that are cross-function. So for instance, if two people are both familiar with a specific account or a specific type of game, we can pair them together to share their own unique experience and perspective. And so we build these partnerships based on business opportunities that are coming up too. And then oftentimes this is when we can pair an employee with a more experienced member of the team, and this person can serve as a mentor.
I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to. So by probably like a year and a half ago, Adam, who's our CEO, told me, go mentor Helen, which might have been, you might have suspected, since I was like, hello, Helen, you're not on my team. Would you like to get coffee with me randomly once a month at the scheduled time? And then, but I'll be honest, it probably took like about a year, because for a while it felt maybe a little awkward and forced, but I noticed in the past probably 5 to 6 months, I'm like, okay, like this feels like a real, and we're both getting something out of it. To your point, mentor-mentee relationship, like it took a while sometimes, I will say, with the pairings, but you can hit your stride. And then I have a mentor that I met, it wasn't at this group, it was at Women in Wireless, and that's not their name now, and I don't remember their name, to be honest with you, they rebranded. But it was a Women in Wireless event, and I was on a panel about mentors. And the EVP of revenue over there was just so impressive to me. And so I afterwards sent her a thank you note for being on the panel, and then 2 weeks later followed up with coffee. And now she's definitely my mentor. And it's been probably 3 years. And she's not in the same vertical as me, right? She's in finance and RevOps, which is very different. But I still learned quite a bit from her. But it was almost like, I guess, I was courting her or something, but she was open to it, so it worked out okay.
Sometimes you have to go get it.
Yeah, I know. I think at that point I realized I don't have a mentor. Maybe I need one. So that's all we had today, and I think we want to open it up if there's any questions from the audience. Yes, go. You want to? Am I supposed to give her the mic?
I can talk loudly.
All right. Do it.
I was just curious, so your title is Director of Marketing, which is fairly straightforward. And creative services, what does that include? Like more on a day-to-day basis?
Definitely. And what's your name?
Jessica.
Jessica, okay. Good question. So, yes, I'm Director of Marketing, but I lead the creative services team. So what we do is we make video, graphic, and playable ads for our customers. And that is marketing, because we're helping them market their apps, and we're trying to help them sell their product. My day-to-day is I manage a couple amazing teams of designers and game developers, and we focus on market research, storyboarding, producing, QA, and looking at the results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that team rolls into my team as the Chief Marketing Officer. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Yes.
Hi. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Regina, and thank you for this panel. I'm actually in marketing, and that's actually one of the reasons I came. I was like, oh, they're talking about marketing. Yes. But my question is this, because there's been a lot of call about diversity and inclusion, and I'm like, this is great, but especially because you were talking about hiring, what I find is that when I'm interviewing, a lot of companies aren't really looking at transferable skills. Like if you're trying to get more diverse candidates in, then you can't really expect that everybody's cut from the same cloth. And I love that, you came from banking, and I forgot your background.
You were banking.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I didn't come from banking. No banking here.
Okay, yeah. Me, insurance and teaching. So, and now I'm in tech. So I'm just wondering, as people who have done that pivot successfully and have stayed, because I've been at a few companies, it's just like, what is your advice to that? Because there's a lot of talk about diversity, but then I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not a fit, right? So there's a little bit of frustration there. So.
I can.
Okay.
We are hiring a director of content right now, and I have maybe yes, we're still in the interview process, but there's a candidate who I would say, and Lewis here has been part of the interview process, is not what was described up here. She is not from tech. She's actually from nonprofit, and so I really had to challenge myself and really focus on what are the like, what are the skills that this job needs? Does it really need a tech background? I don't think it does, actually. I think that if she's really good at the brand and she's smart, then he or she can learn. They can learn the content, and so this person is midway through, and I'm not sure if this individual is going to work out one way or the other. But I moved. Okay, yes, you, you're here now. But I've moved her through the process, and she's done quite well because she does understand, like, she can run a persona project, right? Like, she understands how to go through and do a customer journey project, and those are the skills that I need. She can learn the content, essentially, right? And so that's what I'm trying to, and Alice is reporting to me, I have had clear conversations before where I will say, I am not talking about skin color. I am not talking about gender. I am talking about this person is different than we normally hire, and I don't want to talk about team fit. Do they fit the company? Because when you say team fit, that is actually just who people on the team want to hang out with, in my opinion. And that's uncomfortable to say, but it's kind of the truth, right? And so how can we, and so now we have more people on the team that are, commuting from, an hour and a half away, or they have kids that are in high school, and that isn't really what the makeup of our team used to be. We have someone who just started who is a former professor. Like, it is different, and I'm really trying to push the team to do that because I think we will be better, and we will push the envelope more if we can start to do that. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add? Nope? Okay. Right there?
My name is Aurora. I also work in gaming, and I'm curious about what games do you guys play?
I don't play games. That's the truth. Honest truth. But they do, so go for it. I have 2 kids, so I'm busy. I'm super busy.
I just have a dog, so I can play games. Video games? Console games? Or mobile games?
Mobile.
I spent $500 on Cooking Fever. I finished the game.
Like confessions. Oh, she's a whale. Yeah.
I'm a whale. Task management, resource management, things where I feel like I'm accomplishing things. Cooking Fever. Look it up.
Yeah. She's like I'm steering clear of that game. I want to spend $500.
I do play games a lot, so I usually will download like the top free games, like the top 10 to 20, just to understand what's out there in the marketplace. We do work with 90% of the top gaming developers out there in the ecosystem, so that's part of the market research and intelligence that we do. And then beyond that, I'm really addicted to word games right now. Can you find all the words in this like jumble and like improve your vocabulary and like train your brain? And beyond that, I love playing board games. So we actually play board game, do board game night like every 2 weeks or so at this office, which our creative team and game developers started. And we do it like on a Friday. We order pizza, we drink some beers, and it's just like everyone having a great time.
I play wordscapes. I do play a few games, but I'm nothing like you guys. And I do insist we play board games and do puzzles with the kids. It's really fun. There was a question back there? Yeah.
I'm in the back, so I'll stand up. I'm Justice from Scoots. I work at Line, Scooters, everybody's standing out right now. And to Helen's point, I belong to a private organization of Rubik's Cube solvers.
Very cool. Wow.
Good to know. So we're kind of going through hypergrowth as well. So as a small company, what is something that you value, that you've seen large companies lose along the way that you think is not worth sacrificing?
That's a really great question. I think as a still small organization, we really value just the people that we spend time with. My greatest moments of joy are just my colleagues like challenging me to figure out like, how can we deep dive into this operational challenge together, and how can we figure it out, and like how can we find a better way to get the solution, or let's just geek out together about the data and about the product, and so I think it's people coming together to solve the difficult challenges of the business, and investing and spending time to help each other grow and learn along the way. I think it's so important to hire people who can add to this culture, because I think that's what's gotten us to where we are over the last 5 years. And I think at a larger company, I hope we never lose that part of our culture, is just like people geeking out together about like data and product and like how to do it best.
That's a really good question, Jessica. So adding on to that, I would say for me, it's remembering to keep things nimble. So our team has grown really large, and that means we need to change too. So some of the processes that we had in place don't work when you're at a larger scale, right? And for me, it's I don't want to get in the way of really talented people too who can run with things. So taking a moment, even if things are going at 500 miles per hour, to stop and think about what still needs to exist in the structure, what can we break, and what we can recreate. I think that's really important, because it doesn't make sense to keep things the same way if the team is no longer the same way anymore.
Yeah. And we just did that yesterday. Alice and I sat down and we said, some of these things aren't working and some of these things are, and we haven't rolled it out to those of you who are on Alice's team, so I won't announce it here. But but they're we are moving and changing, and I would just add, I think, which really you hit on in some ways, is being okay with fail, and this whole like fail fast thing. But we really like at this. I've been at this company for 6 years now, so what they have done so great is be able to say, this isn't working, now let's move. And maybe not even, it's not maybe even a pivot, but like, let's change, let's scrap this, let's go forward. Like, this isn't working, we're not gonna hang out here and try to make it work forever. Now, admittedly, being self-funded, that's a lot easier to do when you don't have a board. So I do wanna say that with some context, because I think that we benefited from that quite a bit. But being able to fail and just move quickly has been pretty big. And not having a lot of meetings, I will reinforce that. Every time when you start to grow, all these meetings get going. And we've done a good job of keeping them to a minimum. And that's one of the things Alice and I just did. We looked at the meetings she had, and we're going to start cutting some of the meetings, because we started noticing there was people in too many meetings, and did they really need to be? Good. I think, ready? Do you want to go to the next panel? Yes, you do. Okay. Okay, in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started, but feel free to get up and get a drink and move around as you want to. So now we're going to move more into focusing on tech. And so this is engineering and ops here that you see represented here. This team works out of our Palo Alto office. So our business team mostly is here in San Francisco. And then Palo Alto is finance, ops, engineering, HR. Some of HR is here. We split. Yeah, you know how HR is. So this is going to be about embracing change through actually building systems, right? So the actual adaptability we talked about on more of like a, broad base, and this is actually on systems itself. So this is Sonal, Anusha, Laura, and Swetha. And why don't you guys just tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Take it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sonal. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I work as a principal software engineer at AppLovin, and I've been working here for a little more than 5 years now. Anusha and I actually started a week apart from each other. So the ad server infrastructure team, our main goal is to ensure high performance and scalability in our system. Essentially, we want to make sure that our ads are served in the most efficient and sort of fast way possible, such that we are not only, the response times are as minimum as they could be, but we're also not using as many resources and servers. So yeah, that's what my team does, and I work as part of the team, and then on some other things that I work on are revenue tracking infrastructure, among other things.
Anusha?
Hi, I'm Anusha. I'm also a principal software engineer here at AppLovin. Like Sonal said, we've both been here about 5 years and 2 months now. So it's been a while. And I actually work on the platform team. Funny enough, all 4 of us actually work on different teams, so you're going to get a slightly different aspect on our engineering side. And the platform team, what we do is we make sure that all the data that we get from internal sources, external sources, get into the right databases, the right locations, in the right time, so that everybody in engineering, business side, everybody can actually use it. And so some of the systems I work on are things like a pub subsystem and custom counting frameworks.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm a software engineer on the ad server optimizer team. I've worked for AppLovin for almost 3 years now. And on the optimizer team, we strive to answer essentially 2 questions related to ad serving. So whenever we get an ad request, we're trying to determine, 1, whether or not we want to show an ad and spend the time and resources that it takes to do that. And then 2, what ad do we want to show, and what valuation does that ad is that ad placed at? And so we're actually making use of the data that Anusha's team and Anusha and the platform team give us to answer these questions.
And hi, my name is Shweta, and I work as a network engineer as part of the operations team at AppLovin. So we provide the backbone for all the stuff engineering does. So primarily my responsibilities include designing and configuring and maintaining the production and development networks at AppLovin, and also help with like maintaining our data centers, as well as optimizing our network routes. I'm also responsible for capacity planning as our businesses grow.
Yeah, so obviously we are processing a lot of data and doing a lot, as you've heard here. And as I mentioned early on, we do that with just 160 people right now worldwide. So let's get real specific and talk about how and when do we decide to automate. You heard the panel before this talking about how that's been a real advantage for us. And then, and really what's the best way to automate? If you guys can give some examples around tools, I think that would really help the audience here too, like to get real specific. So you want to take it away, Swetha?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when did we decide to automate was a point where we needed to really scale. When the business started, we were able to manage everything with a few servers in a rack, managed or something, and it was all working fine. But as our businesses grew, we had to scale very quickly, and we had increasing demands. So from a networking perspective, our main concern was to find a vendor that actually has a development-driven product. So with the major players in the industry at that point, it was kind of a challenge to find a vendor that was actually development-driven for networking. So we had to do a little bit of research, and after some evaluation, we ended up using Cumulus Linux. Cumulus Linux is an open box solution, so you could actually install, it's a switching software, so you could actually install the software on a bare metal Linux machine and start working with it. So some of the advantages for going with that sort of a vendor is you can use the software to automate very easily. And we chose Chef as our automation tool. Chef is based on Ruby, so it was easy for us to write code in, as well as our server infrastructure also uses Chef. So networking and servers together, everything is in one place in Chef, and we have like one repository where all of us contribute and change stuff, so it was easy for us to manage. And another advantage is they were able to provide us with virtual images, so we were actually able to simulate a data center before we actually invest money and like buy stuff and actually deploy. So a lot of it was being tested before we could deploy, so that was giving us a big advantage. Because we had limited resources, automation was actually playing a very big role, and we had our reasons to choose Chef and a few of the open networking platforms. And we also use Juniper routers, which have been automated using like Python scripts, and we integrate with Rundeck to like run a job in case we want to do any sort of configuration changes or upgrades. So pretty much for a small company, I think we've done a lot of automation, and we're able to scale quickly with limited resources because of that.
Okay, and then how about on the engineering side, maybe Sonal and Laura, what was it like? Can you give some examples of automating some processes?
So the ops team automated the process of bringing up servers, and now engineering team had to make sure our services could also be deployed on all the servers that were being brought up without a lot of intervention from us. And one of the big things we pride on in engineering is how agile our development is. We push to prod every single day. And when I originally joined, and like even 2 years after I'd been working, we used to push multiple times a day. So any code change that you make could affect all the 60 billion requests that we're serving. And so for me, my first year, I was always very nervous when I was like pushing that button to sort of deploy to production, because there was no nervous. But because we didn't have a lot of structure around how to push and how to make sure that the changes we were making were very limited. And so we tried to build an A/B testing sort of test control framework that would ensure that any new changes we pushed had very minimal impact, and we could ensure that once it was verified, the changes were assessed, only then was it pushed to production.
Okay.
And all of these changes, we couldn't like hack them, do if-else statements, or basic SQL queries, because they were all prone to error. So we had to like come together, sort of build a structure that was away from human error. We could validate all the changes we were making, and we could triage and sort of backtrack the issues, and how we push something, when we push something, and how to fix it.
Right, and to add to Sonal's point, so the A/B testing framework that we put into place in order to kind of combat all these issues is really, really important to the productivity of the optimizer team. So without this, we were kind of, we could be able to A/B test maybe 1 or 2 features in like a week or something. The process was slow, and we might have to wait for one feature to be cleared just because we just didn't have the bandwidth to do a lot of different things at once. And then it was hard for us to analyze how one feature might impact the entire system, and it might be hard to pinpoint exactly which feature might be causing an issue, and we might need to even have reverted all of production to kind of backtrack that problem. So with this new framework in place, we've been able to really, really increase productivity and then just the overall safeness of our system. So we don't have as much of that fear when we're pushing. we can really control exactly how much of our traffic is diverted into one feature, and really really pinpoint, and analyze the impact of each and every feature. And so we can get a lot of features out and do it really quickly, and that's really made us much more productive, much faster, and it's just really a lot safer. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that have allowed us to scale a lot of optimizer features and also infrastructure features really, really quickly as we've grown.
So switching gears just a little bit then. So we talked about how we automate processes, but what about how we grow and scale with those? Have you had to change processes over time? Have you had to scrap them completely and start over? And kind of what does that look like? And how easy is that to do?
So, like I mentioned when I did my introduction, I work on a custom counting framework as one of part of my daily jobs, to say. But way back in 2014, if you go all the way back then, we were a pretty small company still. We were starting to grow pretty rapidly at that time. And all of our data all of the answers that we were trying to get from our data, we would use SQL queries, right? That's what everybody does. You query your database and you get your answers and you look at them and you analyze. And as we grew and grew as the year went by, our data got bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly these SQL queries took an hour to come back with data. An hour and a half. They'd hit database connection issues and networking issues. And so at the end of it, we're like, okay, well, this doesn't quite work. It's not going to scale as fast as we can do, as we are growing. So we actually took that entire system, redesigned it, re-implemented it, and pushed out a brand new custom counting framework that provides the answers and the same results that we wanted out of those SQL queries in 10 minutes. We can do a query on that database, get results in 10 minutes. And this entire thing, because of how fast we move as an engineering department, we had it in from design to production in 3 to 4 months, which is pretty quick, in my opinion. And then, of course, years go by. We keep growing. And with all the alerting and monitoring that we have in place, we realize that we're soon going to hit a limit there too. So what do we do then? All right, scrap the whole thing. And we literally went down back to the square one, decided to redesign the whole system, redesigned it, re-implemented it, re-pushed it to production 3 months later in 2016. And knock on wood, that is the system we have in place today, and it will continue to go. But I bug ops about it all the time. But we have nice alerting and monitoring systems that ops has set up for us that keep our systems in place.
Another thing that to go with the scalability. So as data has increased, the business has increased, and logic would follow that campaigns and ad inventory have also increased. So with this increase, the ad selection process has also kind of gotten bogged down at times. So there's more ads to go through. So every single thing that you do in that part of the system is just going to start to be slower. So this is a gradual increase, and didn't really impact things. But sometimes you want to scale things, or sometimes scalability is about kind of dealing with making things larger. But in this case, we wanted to actually add campaign breadth, a variety of additional campaigns to serve on a different component of our system called real-time bidding. And in this system, we are bidding on other ad requests from other systems. And in order to do this, we need to meet a certain millisecond threshold. And so when we tried to add more campaigns in this system, we found that we were no longer meeting this millisecond threshold. So we were looking at the data, kind of saying like, okay, nothing's happening here, so we've got to do some analysis. So we used a tool called Flame Graph to actually analyze the CPU usage of our ad server and see where things were taking the longest amount of time. So we looked, and sure enough, it was in our ad selection process. And so we were able to use this to see exactly where we were spending the most time. And then we were able to analyze this and go through and figure out where we could make cuts, where we could figure out how to do the exact same thing, get the same result, and produce the same ad that we would in the previous system, but do it faster. And so through this process, we were actually able to increase speed as much as 3 times faster in some cases, and drop CPU load a lot. So it was really a great success, and just another example of how we were able to scale things quickly. And I mean, the entire process was like a few weeks maybe, so.
So how do you decide that? Like, how do you decide when to just scrap it all together, like you were talking about, or keep working on it and kind of push through? Because it sounds like, especially in your example, Anusha, it was almost like broke, and we were in trouble. So do we have something that's in place that lets us know about that ahead of time, or is there some kind of meeting or team situation that occurs for you guys to decide, hey, this is looking like it might need to be changed, we should invest more? What does that look like?
So specifically for this, well, not even specifically, all of our systems are actually we have a common tools package, which platform keeps up to date, and most of our services plug into the system and use our tools to send metrics, send stats all up to Graphite, which is one of our monitoring tools. And Graphite is amazing. If you ever see our office in Palo Alto, you'll see just TVs full of graphs everywhere, monitoring the most, like every little thing you can think of.
I like that you think that's amazing.
They're really cool looking graphs, though. We have a ton of TVs up and everywhere.
I think it's interesting when people walk by, they see all these graphs, they don't know anything what they're about.
Yeah.
And then they'll see one tiny
cool.
little spike somewhere of one thing going wrong, and suddenly you're like, oh, wait, that's wrong.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what went wrong.
To be
there.
fair, we use those in our videos and all sorts of stuff for marketing.
It's in all of our promotional videos. And so that's one of the big things that tells us when a system is coming to a limit. We have stats on our databases. Are we hitting some size limit where we can't grow any further? Are we hitting a CPU limit? Can we not process things a little faster? Are we hitting a backup somewhere where files are sitting around just waiting to be processed and we don't know? And if we don't know about that, then that's a problem because we're going to be behind. Our reporting pages aren't going to show the right thing. Business side won't see the right data until maybe hours ahead, and then they'll come to us and be like, where's the data? And we have to be like, let's go find it. But all of these tools in place, Graphite, Zabbix, Chef, all of these things help you automate and figure out these alerts that might happen. And for the counting framework, that was the biggest thing that actually told us this is not gonna work. We hit a threshold that we saw was not gonna. We hit a threshold that we had that wasn't full, but not there, like an 80% threshold. Decided to do some things to minimize it for the short term, and then decide a long-term solution. And I think that's one thing in engineering that we do a lot is we do a short-term solution that is like for 1 week, 2 weeks. Let's fix the problem immediately so we continue to run, and then figure out a long-term process, a long-term solution that we can push out in a month and a half that will actually fix the entire solution. And we can go for another year or 2 or 3 or however long it may be with the system.
One of the things I'd like to add to that is, so one of the very first and sort of the most drastic scrapping of things we did was our ad server used to be in PHP, and a lot of our other components were in PHP as well. So while we were debugging an issue with real-time bidding and sort of why aren't we bidding fast enough, why aren't we winning as much, we realized it was actually the choice of language that was the bottleneck for our system. So we decided, we could have continued to patch and sort of improve the PHP system, make it faster, sort of win, find some wins here and there. But we realized that it was sort of avoiding the unavoidable, because at some point we would have to move away from that system. So we took a step back and we decided, okay, what can we do? And we decided to come up with a C++ ad server solution. And it was sort of a big undertaking because most people on the team didn't even know C++, but knew how powerful the language was. So within a few months, we all decided to, sort of learn C++ and had a working ad server solution that not only supported our in-network ad serving, but also our real-time bidding solution. And over the year, then we sort of migrated all our other services away from PHP to Java or C++. And this is like something that's very fun. One of our first intern projects was to move a service away from PHP to Java. And the intern finished it in 2 months. So that's sort of the trend at AppLovin. We try to get, if there's a need and we realize there is a problem, we don't shy away from completely scrapping the system. And more importantly, we try to sort of learn quickly, everybody grows together, and try to get a solution out as soon as possible. And not a hacky solution, but something that will work long time. So we're currently still using our C++ ad server, and everybody on the team, we are always looking to make changes, even if they're like small changes to the toString function, so we can get like little wins here and there and continue to optimize our system.
Yeah. So that actually brings me to our final question, which is, what about looking forward? So you're building this stuff now. How do you future-proof it? Can you future-proof anything? Maybe you could each give me your thoughts on that, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Sure. So I think, yes, we can future-proof things to an extent. So from the ops perspective, the way we try to plan is we don't just have 2x or 3x capacity. We actually want to have at least 10 times the current load. That's the capacity that we look at, because we've actually run into instances where that really helped us, and we really needed the bandwidth and the servers to help. I know Anusha agrees, because we've run into a lot of issues where we had 40 gig of bandwidth, and it was actually, we never used it that much, but suddenly one day we needed it. It was during the holidays, it's always during the holidays that we need it. And we actually had a 40 gig bandwidth between US East and West, and we were able to do the data transfer quickly without anyone even noticing or waking up anybody or disturbing them from their holidays. So that's how we plan. And I think one of the important or key concepts about being future-proof is to have excellent monitoring. And for the size of our company, I feel like the monitoring we have is really good. We use graphite. So graphite is beautiful, colorful. So it's numbers in graphs. So you're not looking actually at tables. You're not looking at boring data. You're actually looking at graphs and spikes and dips. And it's all time and data. So it's easy for us to understand. And you could actually add any component to graphite and start tracking it. Even before you understand why we are tracking it, maybe a couple of months later, you run into an issue and you go back to the one thing that you were tracking and you look at it and you were like, okay, thank God I actually had these stats. Yeah. So graphite keeps collecting, and it works with Zabbix and also pulls SNMP data from networking devices. So it's sort of one place where we can look at a lot of our stats and attributes and data to monitor. And apart from that, we also work with, we also have Google Cloud Compute. So we have systems where we could just spin up several servers if we needed and then tear them down once we're done. So that also helps us to be future-proof to some extent. And also maybe from the networking side, we also look for vulnerabilities that keep coming. We proactively patch our systems, do upgrades, be on the lookout for anything that's going on, and kind of have everything up to date so we don't have to worry about when something actually hits us. Yeah.
Laura, you want to? Final thoughts?
Yeah. So when I'm working on something, I'd say it's probably a little bit more granular. I would say, for one thing, the monitoring that we have in our system definitely makes it really easy to see any small change. So if there is an issue, we're going to catch it faster, and that's really, really important. From more of a designing things for future-proof perspective, I'd say since I'm adding a lot of new features, a lot of new functionality, whenever I'm looking to add new things, I try to look not just for, will this last, a week, but, designing it in such a way that I'm trying to think, what else might I use this for? So that's just kind of an important way that I approach pretty much all the code that I wrote, right?
Anusha?
So like Swetha said, we definitely have the ops, if they have 10x capacity, platform will use it. At some point in time, we will 100% use it. If it's just an emergency data transfer from one side of the country to the other because something went wrong, we will use it. And so I know I bug ops every single day for random stuff, and I'm glad that they allow me to do that. But as for future-proofing, a lot of our systems, they're all repeating the same thing, right? Monitoring, 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 because that is the biggest thing you can do. And our Java services that we use, we all have one base set of tools that we plug into every single Java service, and it makes every single developer, they don't have to know how this tool is written in Java, they just use it, and they know that as soon as they use it, 5 minutes later, it's gonna end up in Graphite, you can pull up a dashboard on it, you can see a graph of it, and it's done, and it's there for you to see forever, until you stop writing to it and it goes away. But you at least have the ability to do that. And that's one of the things that is really nice, is it just exists and people use it. Funny enough, this monitoring tool, we actually were trying to figure out some issue, like we were trying to test a new database, something was going wrong, we realized that it's actually our tool that writes to Graphite that was not working. We took it around, we redid it, and a day later, we actually got 200x improvement out of it, just by rewriting the whole thing. And we went from about 10,000 writes a minute to 2.5 million, theoretically, writes a minute. And it was like, of course, that's all theoretical numbers, and it's more like 1 million writes a minute. But in the end, it went out to production, like it went out into our code system. Nobody knows that it actually got changed on the back end, but they'll use it, they'll see an improvement, and it's just kind of there. And that's the cool thing about having these systems that make it future-proof. They exist, you use it, things show up in graphs, it works. And you have to think about, if you're going to do those 1 million writes a minute, can your system handle it? And that's future-proofing. And that's kind of what we try to do, at least a little bit.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to add something that Anusha told us earlier in the day, that even with the issue the monitoring system had, we still only needed 2 servers for getting all the metrics from all our different Java services. So the revenue tracking infrastructure that I work on, when I move, because it's such a tricky component, and that is where we track our revenue, any changes I make could potentially make us lose events, make us lose our revenue. So when I started, I integrated with the monitoring service, because the platform team had done just such an amazing job giving it to us. One of the best things is when you look at our data, it follows a very certain path, and if there's any variance in it, you will be able to tell there's an issue. And so that's one of the reasons why monitoring becomes so important, because we can see every little detail of our system and how it changes. So specifically, for example, for the revenue tracking infrastructure, I can see how many revenue events I'm tracking every single hour, minute, day. And if there's a change, we can determine sooner than later that there was a change, and it would usually correlate to a certain push or some sort of event that happened, and we can either go ahead and revert the change or sort of push a fix out quickly. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, in the interest of time here, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. Maybe take 1 or 2, and then, because I know I believe there's dessert. Yes, there's dessert and drinks. I wouldn't want to promise dessert if it wasn't there, right? Any questions? Any others? Yes, right there in the middle.
Hi, I'm Casey.
Hi, Casey.
I'm working on trying this out with my first app, so
okay.
I'm just learning from you guys. And first of all, it's been so fun to listen to you guys talk. You're so passionate about what you do.
Thank you.
This has been really engaging to
Thank you.
all of you talk. So I guess my one question is, what's the one thing that you wish you could do faster? You guys are going at such a big speed. How do you communicate together? I mean, you're all on 4 different teams, so how do you make sure you aren't messing up each other's stuff? And what's the one thing you wish you could just do faster?
That's a good question.
So thank you for your question. And one of the things about not messing each other's stuff up is we are on 4 different teams, so we do kind of work on separate projects. And we do at the very beginning, back in like 2013 when we started, we were using GitHub, all Git and all that good stuff for code version control and things, but we didn't have a good code review process in place. And over the time, as we grow from just maybe 2 or 1 engineer in a team to 4, 5, 8 engineers in a team, we've put a code review process in place. We've put in structure so that we actually don't step on each other's toes. We have branches. We have to push to master, and then push from master to production, and do all these things. Basically, red tape, if you want to call it. before we can actually push it out. But even at that point with all of these processes, we still push code every single day to production. We still push out our stuff. It's because we have I guess we are all used to it now, and it's such a good process that we have in place that it doesn't seem, it's streamlined. That's the word I was looking for. It's a streamlined process that actually works for us.
Okay. And I think we are still a very small team, so really we all have a lot of different sort of responsibilities and roles we play every day, and we are small enough that they're very separate from each other, even if you're part of the same team. So there's a lot of communication, and as you'd mentioned, because of facilitating sort of the open office structure, whenever we have questions or we want to discuss something, we just go to the person's desk. It doesn't have to be like an elaborate meeting. And so really, like if there's something you're working on and you think somebody else might have done it before, you can just go ask them. It's as easy as that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not on your team, but I do talk to the VP of engineering quite often, and when I have, which is rare, by the way, a lot of times VP of engineering don't want to talk to the CMO, and they are annoyed by us, and that's not the case here. So I would say, or to the engineers themselves, I would say communication is really key, and just different types of communication, whether it's taking the time to talk to someone, or we really leverage Slack. I can't say enough how much we leverage Slack. We have multiple channels. We will do direct messages. However, we use it, and it's been pretty awesome. And then we all use Asana, I would say, too. Yeah. So they use Asana, and then I made my whole team use Asana, and they didn't like it, but they like it now. It took a while. So I actually try to sometimes mirror some of the processes they're using, because I think that it helps. Obviously, I'm not going to do graphite and those things, right? But like there are the communication processes, trying to do similar things helps us communicate better as cross-functional teams across the company, too. Any more question back there? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mark. So it's very impressive that you guys are so flexible. When you see something that's not working, you change it. So my question is, when you change the database, scrap it, there's a lot of resources that you need to use to make it happen. How is the decision made? Like, who's involved? Like, how do you, be able to push that idea?
I think the decisions are mostly a combined discussion. Like Katie said, we don't have that many meetings. So in case something like this comes up, we would do a discussion where we pull in our VP of Ops and engineering, and then the concerned people in the teams that are involved, and sort of like whiteboard it, get everybody's opinion, write down some stuff that our top technologies that we want to use, and then kind of get everybody's opinion. And again, we would discuss over Slack in a particular channel, and kind of arrive at a conclusion. So it'll be more of a discussion with the teams concerned.
And I think just when everybody wants the best for sort of the product and the company, it's very easy to come to a quick conclusion.
Yeah, we're all on the same page.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you want one more question? Sure, go for it.
So as a SDK provider, you deal with a lot of customers and that face a lot of issues, right? How do you track the issues that are reported in and do analytics on them to figure out where to fix things and prioritize your time?
Actually, we have a separate product team, Jimmy's team, that sort of does that for us. So one of the amazing things about engineering is that because of a product team, they take care of sort of triaging and determining the issues before they even get to us. So by the time an issue comes to us, it's probably something that is important.
Yeah.
And you work with the SDK team.
Yeah, I've done a lot of those kind of ad server-side settings, and I only get the ones that we're certain are a problem immediately. So having that kind of filter above us makes it so that we're able to get those out really, really quickly and prioritize them as much as possible.
Yeah, and the product team, while they are business people, have some engineering and light background, so they can triage pretty well too. So I think that kind of having a team that's in the middle there makes a big difference. All right, I'm going to wrap it. We are available to answer more questions, but I'm going to let everyone go get drinks and dessert. Thank you very much for coming.